The seven wonders of the ancient world are some of the first remarkable man-made structures. These structures were depicted from popular guidebooks by ancient writers like Herodotus and Diodorus for sightseers. However, the guidebooks only included structures around the Mediterranean Sea and in the Mesopotamia area. The seven wonders of the ancient world include the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, Artemis at Ephesus, the mausoleum at Halicarnassus, Colossus of Rhodes, and the lighthouse of Alexandria. Of the seven, only one still stands. The only remaining structure is the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built in 2500 BCE for Pharaoh Khufu. The pyramid was the tallest man-made structure in the world for almost 4,000 years. Excavations of the interior weren't initiated until the early 1800s, which intrigues visitors today but was unknown to the ancient visitors. Ancient visitors were more impressed by the pyramid's perfect symmetry and massive height. The second wonder, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, were built between 605 and 562 BCE by Nebuchadnezzar. He built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon for his wife, who missed her homeland's flowers and mountains. This amazing structure was over 75 feet tall, with overlapping terraces filled with exotic flora and fauna hanging off the edges. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon were destroyed in 1 CE by an earthquake. Of the seven wonders, this one is the most controversial. Many historians struggle to believe that this structure even existed because Herodotus never mentions it in his writings. However, there are various other ancient structures he has failed to mention or has been wrong about. The third wonder, the statue of Zeus at Olympia, was built in 5th century BCE by a sculptor named Phidias. The statue depicted the mighty god Zeus sitting on a throne. His skin was made ivory and his robes were hammered gold. The statue was about 40 feet tall and was designed to inspire awe amongst his worshippers and, of course, whoever went to the temple. However, the statue was so tall that Zeus's head was nearly touching the ceiling, and many people criticized the statue because of this. The statue fell into ruins after the rise of Christianity and the ban of the Olympic Games. The statue was carried off to Constantinople, where it was later destroyed by an earthquake. The fourth wonder, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, was completed in 550 BCE. The temple took over 120 years to build and was destroyed in a night. The temple was sponsored by King Croesus of Lydia, who was known to spare no expense in anything he did. The temple was 425 feet high, 225 feet wide, and was supported by 127 60-foot columns that wrapped around the building. The temple was so awe-inspiring that every written account of the temple is written with the same amount of awe, and they all agree that this was an amazing structure. However, in 356 BCE, a man named Herostratus set fire to the temple to achieve everlasting fame. After the destruction of the temple, Alexander the Great offered to rebuild the temple, but the Ephesians politely declined. After Alexander's death, it was rebuilt on a less grand scale, but was later destroyed by the invasion of the Goths. It was yet rebuilt again, but was ultimately destroyed by a Christian mob. The fifth wonder, the mausoleum of Halicarnassus, was built in 351 BCE for the Persian satrap Mausolus. He chose Halicarnassus as his capital city, where him and his wife Artemisia went to great lengths to make the city so beautiful that would put all the other cities in shame. However, he died 2 years later. His wife continued building the mausoleum, wishing to create a place worthy enough to bury such a great king. A couple years later, Artemisia died and was also entombed with her husband in the mausoleum. The mausoleum stood 135 feet tall and was decorated with elaborate sculptures and other artwork. The mausoleum was destroyed by a series of earthquakes and laid in ruins until 1494 BC. The Knights of St. John of Malta completely dismantled the mausoleum and used the materials to build their castle in Bodrum, where you can still see the stonework from the mausoleum today. The sixth wonder, the Colossus of Rhodes, was built between 292 BCE and 280 BCE. After the war with Demetrius, the citizens of Rhodes decided to build the statue to commemorate their victory and freedom. All of the machinery and equipment that Demetrius left behind was sold and helped build the statue. The statue depicted the god Helios overlooking the harbor of Rhodes. The statue itself stood over 110 feet high, not including the 50-foot tall pedestal that it stood on. The Colossus of Rhodes stood for about 56 years until it was destroyed by an earthquake in 226 BCE. The seventh wonder, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, was completed somewhere around 280 BCE. The lighthouse was built on the island of Pharos, where it stood approximately 440 feet in height. The lighthouse rose from a square base to an octagonal section to a circular top. The light seen during the day was a reflection of the sun's rays, and at night the fire lit the top. The light was visible 35 miles out to sea. The lighthouse was one of the third tallest man-made structures. It was so amazing that people who saw it said words couldn't describe its beauty. The lighthouse was badly damaged by a series of earthquakes. By the year 1480 CE, it was gone. If you go to the site where the lighthouse used to be, an Egyptian fort called Qaitbay stands and was built with some of the ruins of the lighthouse. Although only one of these remarkable structures still exists, they all remain a very important part of history.